Welcome back to another video from Cracked Housing Fab. This week we're going to put together the rear drive assembly for Not So Simplicity. We're going to get the sprockets put in, bearings put on, put the shaft in there, get the chain ran to the front. So stay tuned for that. Also, man, what a week it's been. We've had a ton of growth on our Facebook, over 3,000 followers now. So thank you guys to the subscribers that we have on YouTube that are going there, checking it out. Also, the Instagram has been growing as well. So thanks a lot, guys. We've been having a lot of fun. Kurt and I have been talking to a bunch of people in the comments of all of our platforms. So awesome, thanks guys. We've been so excited. We've been getting a lot of interactions. It's been a lot of fun. So stay tuned. We're gonna get this done and get to work. Okay, so before we go put the center shaft in here and the sprocket and hook all that stuff up with the bearings on, I want to go ahead and weld all this stuff up. Be easier with everything in my way, and that way it'll make it even stronger because we know that everything that is here is going to stay. We don't need to cut anything back out and redo anything. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this stuff welded up, that way it'll be ready to go. All right, buddy, I got everything all welded up on the rear frame, so what's the next step to get everything done?
Oh, we got to get our bearings mounted here for our center shaft in the back. So I was kind of looking at this, trying to determine where it would be best, because we have to make sure there's clearance for the control arm so the CV shaft won't hit. So it's kind of looking good right in here. We'll probably end up taking these little guards off the CV shafts once we get going, but yeah, it looks like it's going to work out really well. Our sprocket's going to go in here somewhere, but as laying all this out, we notice that we're going to have to cut this frame. We're going to notch the frame out so the sprocket can sit down in here, but then we'll just weld in a brace around it to reinforce it. So it won't really make much of a difference. So yeah, it should work out pretty good.
All right, let's get to work.
So in order to get this bearing mounted, we'll have to make up some little brackets here. Just out of plate steel, pretty simple. We'll just drill it, through bolt it. The bracket over here, we'll have to notch it and get kind of creative, but it's turning out pretty well here.
All right, and while you're working on that, I'm gonna jump over and switch the CV axle on the other side. We did notice early on that one of these axles is longer than the other. So what we're gonna do is we bought an aftermarket short axle, so that'll be the same on both sides. Obviously the bearings and all that stuff, we kind of had to figure out the spacing for that, and so that'll be the next step. Okay guys, so I switched the CV axle. We realized that the place that we bought the axle from gave us the wrong side. A little bit of a backstory, kind of, sort of, on these Grizzly rear ends. One CV axle is longer than the other. Obviously it's probably for the differential or however they designed it. But what we're gonna do, we're just gonna make it work. We're gonna take the old CV axle, we're just gonna cut the section out of it and make it shorter until we get the right one, just so we can keep moving and get this whole rear end setup done. And then we'll figure out what we're gonna do with that. But it looks like Kurt was working on the brackets here. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so I got this all put in place with C-clamps right now, just to kind of hold it all in place. We're just gonna go ahead and tack weld the bearing to the brackets we made, just so nothing moves while we go and drill the holes. So we'll work on that.
Ready? All right, so we cut the section out that we needed to remove, and we welded it back together. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and put it back in place of this one. This is just gonna serve the purpose for mocking it up. That way we can get everything set up, and then when we get the right one, we'll just put the right one back in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this one out, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get it done.
Okay, so we got the CV shaft put back in. And also we tacked in the bearings, the little mounts that we made. So, and we just have a piece of shaft in there so we can make sure it's all lined up and square to the frame. We took several measurements to make sure we are square to everything. So that looks good. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna weld the brackets up so that's solid in place and go from there. All right, so with the bearings all in place and welded in, the next step is we're gonna have to cut our frame here to make clearance for the sprocket. So we're gonna work on that, and our shaft here, the diameter is just a little too big to go into our CV shafts. So we're gonna head on over to the shop, turn down just a little bit, it's not much, so we can get the CV shafts to slide on the end of our shaft.
All right, so I need to take this shaft and turn it down to make it the same size as the inner diameter of our CV axle. So what I'm gonna do is do a few passes, we'll get a good measurement on it, and then we're gonna check the fit to make sure this fits into the this inside bore really nice and snug. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a few passes on that. All right, so we got the shaft turned down to the size that we need. It fits the shaft or the inside bore of this really well, so I'll go ahead and slide it on there so you can see. Fits nice and snug. Then what we'll do is we'll drill a hole here and we'll pin it. That way, it obviously will be able to rotate all together. But yeah, it fits and turns out really nice. All right, Kurt and I just got back from the shop. We turned the shaft down. We'll show you. It really was only about 35 thousandths bigger. So we turned that down on the lathe. We got that all set up. So now we need to drill the holes in the sprocket hub to bolt the sprocket to it to get everything mounted in the rear of Not So Simplicity.
All right, before we get the sprocket put in here on our shaft, which everything lines up nice, like we said earlier, we have to tie this back together. because we had to cut it for the sprocket. So we're gonna make this cool little chain guard, which is gonna weld in here, in the back, and then we'll put a little piece here. So this will kind of tie all this together and create a heavy duty chain sprocket guard to protect the sprocket. We have the sprocket on. We just got this put back together, our little chain guard down here, which also doubles as our brace that we told you about earlier to tie that front back together. Turned out really heavy duty. We got both the CV shafts put back on, slid on there. We do still have to drill a hole through here, and we're gonna put a bolt through it to obviously keep it from spinning, but we're gonna wait till we get the new CV shaft, the replacement one. But everything's looking to line up good. I think Sean's got the chain here.
I found the steel snake. All right,
So we'll
roll it around.
work on putting this on.
All right, there we go. And then we have to add one more section longer. We have another section of chain over there in the box that with the parts. So we'll add those two together to get us the length to get up front.
Had to get up to that jack shaft up front. All right, so we have our master links put in, and we got the chains all put in. We made a little tensioner here. We still have a little more work to do to it. We're gonna put a little bushing thing in here and weld it all in so it's a little more stiff. But overall, it's looking pretty good. I'll show you a little view there, up to that one. And while we were at it, we were actually able to get that nut off. We actually just ground on both sides of it, and it broke right off. We have a new one coming in the mail. Made a little tensioner here, so that turned out really nice. So that's, yeah, it's looking good. All right, guys, it's been a really long day, but we're happy with what we got done. We got the chain setup done. We got the rear center jack shaft done. That turned out really cool. We have a couple more things to wrap up, especially when we get that new CV shaft, but it's coming along really good. We got that front nut off the motor. That kind of gave us a little bit of a headache, but that's fixed. Yeah, so the drivetrain is 95% of the way there, and we're pretty happy.
All right, guys. I'm back again telling you to go ahead and subscribe. We've been working really hard on this. We've had a lot of success as far as like people following us and talking to us. We're excited about it. We're looking forward to growing even more. So go down, subscribe, hit that like button, go to other social media platforms, tell your friends and family about us. Just help us grow. We want to get at least to the 500 subscriber mark on YouTube. So help us get to that goal. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next video.